Ahoy hoy, it's Michaela from Team RetroOZ, where we like retro games and we like the devices that bring them to us. So I have another custom build video for you today. This one is going to utilize the Powkiddy RGB10 Max. Now this is an older device. I'm actually giving this away to my friend's 10-year-old son for his birthday this weekend. This is unfortunately a device that I never really used since I bought it. And I didn't do a lot of video content on it either. And about last month, maybe 2 months ago at this point, I did back the Indiegogo campaign for the AYN Odin, and that's finally shipped out to me, so I should have that by next week, and I have a feeling that once I get that device, I won't be using the RGB10 Max very much at all. So before I give this away, I want to do a Nintendo Essentials build, which is basically going to be a best of for Mario, Zelda, Pokemon, Donkey Kong, and I'll probably even throw a little bit of Sonic in there. And then I'm going to use the custom collections option in the RetroOZ firmware to put them all in one place and make these games easily accessible to an 11-year-old. And I actually scheduled this video to come out after I've given it to him so that the surprise isn't ruined, and he's also getting a bunch of Pokemon cards from me as well. And if you're watching this video, you might be in the same boat as I am. You might have one of these older devices and you have newer devices that replaced it, and now you're looking to either give the old ones away or hand them down to a child. And hopefully this video will help you set your device up so you could do just that. Alright, now that the backstory's out of the way, let's jump in and let's get started. So we're going to start by downloading the RetroOZ firmware, which is actually a fork of RetroOZ for the Anbernic RG351 devices. And there's two links here. There's a Mega and a OneDrive link. I suggest using the OneDrive link because the Mega link is going to take forever to download. Even the OneDrive link took about half an hour total for me to actually get onto my computer. It's about a 5 GB image, and my internet speeds were fine. I think it's the server in which the actual file is stored that's causing the slow download speeds. But unfortunately, we need this RetroOZ image in order to complete this build, so we're gonna wait a little bit. I would say check back maybe about like half an hour after you click the download button, and then we'll move on. Once the file is downloaded, we need to unzip it. I'm actually going to use 7-zip, but you can use WinRAR or whatever unarchiver that you happen to have handy. And again, it's a 5 GB image that we're unzipping, so it's going to take a couple of minutes. Just have some patience, and once it's complete, you should end up with an IMG file. So we're going to burn that IMG file onto a micro SD card using Win32 Disk Imager. I'm using a 64 GB micro SD card, so I'm just going to make sure that the drive letter in Win32 Disk Imager matches the drive letter of my micro SD card. Once we've done that, let's go ahead and browse to our image, and we're simply going to click write. It's going to ask us to confirm, so go ahead and commit. And it's going to take a few minutes to write to the device, so grab a cup of coffee or your beverage of choice, use the bathroom, and then come on back when it's all done. And once it's finished, we could go ahead and eject the SD card, and we're going to actually put it into our device for initial boot up. And if all went well, the system will boot up and it will give you a message that it's going to partition the SD card to have a ROMs partition on it. So go ahead and click A to confirm that, and it's going to partition the SD card, and it's also going to do some other tweaks to the operating system. So it's going to restart a few times, and it's going to run some scripts, so just sit tight and let it do its thing, and try not to touch the device while it is doing that. And once it's all done, it will boot up into the RetroOZ operating system. And there's just a couple of tweaks we need to do here before we shut down the device to put ROMs on it. One quick thing to note here is that there are some native ports already installed, but not all of them have the commercial files necessary to run them. The most important one that we need here is the Super Mario 64 port, and you could see that it's already set up to play, but if we try to launch it, it will just bounce right back into the operating system, and that's because we don't actually have the files we need to run this. So we're going to set that up later on in this video. For now, let's just go into options, and we're going to go into device. And this is where we can actually choose what device we are using. We are using the RGB10 Max. However, I'm going to change the device to set start and select to the top buttons instead of the bottom buttons. This is personal preference for me, and I also know the person I'm giving this to has a Nintendo Switch, so it'll be more natural for them to reach the top buttons instead of the bottom ones. However, if you prefer the buttons on the bottom, you don't have to do this step. You could just go ahead and shut down the system, and we're going to move over to the computer now. So once the system shuts down, take out the SD card and put it back into your computer, and I'll see you over there. Back on the computer, you could see now there is a ROMs partition. So let's go into that, and let's first put our BIOS files onto the device. I have a RetroArch BIOS pack. Unfortunately, I can't tell you where I got it from because of copyright. So you're unfortunately going to be on your own as far as your BIOS files, but once you have them, just put them into the BIOS subfolder. And same goes for ROM files. I can't tell you where I got them from, but I can tell you that I'm curating a very specific ROM list for this build. I'm only using Mario, Zelda, Kirby, Donkey Kong, and Sonic games. I'm also putting in some Pokemon as well because the person I'm giving this to really likes Pokemon. And I've known him since he was 4 years old, so I'm pretty sure I had a hand in that. Now that we have our ROM files, we're going to go ahead and use this Google Builder file to build our Mario 64 port. And I'll include the link in the video description. It looks scary, but it's actually very easy to use, and the directions are very specific. So let's run the first cell called toolchain, builds the binaries. Just click the play button, click run anyway, and just give it a few minutes and let it download the assets it needs. It's basically downloading a bunch of folders to the project. Once it's done, click the folder on the left and click the refresh button on the top just to make sure all the files are there. Now we actually need to take a Nintendo 64 ROM of Super Mario 64 and we need to rename it baserom.us.z64 and drag it right into this middle folder SM64 351 elect port. And it's going to upload the file right into the project. And then you have to be very careful with this next step because we are building for RetroOZ. So you have to make sure you put a hashtag symbol next to the 351 elect command and remove the hashtag symbol from the RetroOZ command. It's very important that you do that, otherwise it will build for 351 elect instead of RetroOZ, and it's a pain in the neck to get this tool running again if you mess up. Then go ahead and click the play button, and it's going to run a bunch of scripts, and it's going to create your port. So just let it do its thing until it's done. It'll probably take about 2 minutes at the most. And once it's done, hit that folder refresh button one more time, and you should see an SM64 RetroOZ zip file. So we're just going to go ahead and download that to our computer. Once it's downloaded, go ahead and extract the zip file, and we're going to move the assets we need onto the SD card so we can get this port working. So let's go ahead and go into the ports folder of our ROMs partition on our SD card, and we're going to go into the SM64 folder. And I'm actually going to back this folder up just in case I screw this up. And once that's done, let's go ahead into the SM64 ArcOS folder, and you notice you'll see an SH file and you'll see the same SM64 folder. Now, because RetroOZ already did some of the prep work for us, we don't need the SH file, and there are a couple of files in the SM64 folder that we need to make sure we don't overwrite, and that would be the configuration and the controller folder. If we move those over or overwrite them, we're not going to be able to play our game on this device. So we're just going to move the game assets over. So basically move every folder over except the controller folder. And hopefully you backed up your SM64 folder like I did, just in case you accidentally messed this up, so that way you don't have to reflash the whole image again. Now that the port files are transferred over, we're going to scrape our box art, and we're going to use a program called Scraper in order to do that. You do need a screenscraper.fr account in order to use this program, but that is free to get. I'll include a link in the description for both Scraper and screenscraper.fr. When asked to pick your front end, you're going to click Recall Box. And then you're going to navigate to your SD card to find the ROM folders. And it should auto-populate the folders once you do that, but also click the button to include non-recall box folders, and then go ahead and click Next. Then you could go ahead and finish the wizard, and it'll take you to the scraper front end. So there's a couple things we need to do here. Under game list, we're going to set the gamelist.xml to no backup, create new, or overwrite existing. And then in the media tab, we're going to do an internal mix. We're going to do the screen scraper recall box mix v1, and we're also going to add a normalized video. And then we're also going to, under the output folder, we're going to delete the word media there. That's an optional step, but I find it makes the scraping process a little bit cleaner. And then that's it. Go to All Systems, go ahead and click the play button to scrape your box art, and go ahead and click OK to commit. Now, if you have a lot of ROM files, this is going to take a long time, but I have a very curated list here, so this shouldn't take very long at all. Now, I also have this song from OC Remix that I want to play when the menu music plays, so I'm going to drag that to the BG music folder on the ROMs partition, and I'm going to delete the default song that's already there. So now whenever the menu is up, there's going to be this cool remixed version of the Grassland Overworld level of Mario 3. And that's it. That was the last tweak. So now let's eject the SD card and plug it back into our device and see what we got. Now, for some reason, my audio recorded terribly for this video, but you can hear the background music that I put on this device in the menu, and you could see how the box art was scraped. And so far, everything looks really good, but the first thing I want to do is I want to test the Super Mario 64 port and see if I actually put the files on there properly. And as you can see, there it is, and it's looking very good. And it's running at 60 frames per second. This is actually a great device to play this game on, especially with the 16:9 screen. It just looks really good. So now let's do a little bit of work on the front end and set up some custom collections. You can see I already made one here titled Mario. So we're going to go into Game Collection Settings on the main menu. Press the Start button to get there. And then we're going to go to Create New Custom Collection. And this one we're going to name Zelda. You'll get a message on the top that says editing Zelda. So if we go into our game collections, we'll hit the Y button when we hover over a Zelda game, and it will automatically add it to the collection. So I'm going to go through all my systems, and I'm going to pick all of the Zelda games for the systems that I put on this device. And then I'm going to do the same thing for every other collection that I want to make. I'm going to do a Kirby one, I'm going to do a Donkey Kong one, I'm going to do a Pokemon one. and I'm going to do a Sonic one. And we're going to make a couple of UI tweaks. So we're going to go ahead and hit the start button again, and we're going to go into UI settings, and we're going to scroll down to start on system. And from there, we're going to change the system that we start on to collections because I want to boot into my custom collections here. And then under visible systems, we're going to turn off some of the stuff that we don't need like Doom, OpenBore, Pico 8. And we're also going to hide the tools and options setting because we don't need to do any more tweaks there. And I don't want him going in and messing anything up. Now we're going to go into the ports tab next. And I want to hide all of these other native ports. So we're going to hit select on each one. We're going to hit edit this game's metadata. And we're going to scroll down to hidden and tick that box on. And then we're going to go ahead and save each one. And we're going to do that for all but Super Mario 64 because half these ports need commercial files to work and the other half I don't want on this particular build, so we're just going to hide them for now. So that when you're done, the only file that you should see in the ports folder is the Super Mario 64 port. Once you've done that, go ahead and click Start to go back into the UI settings, and we just need to make sure Boot on Game List is selected here. And we also want to turn on Hide System View. So now whenever we boot up this system, it's just going to take us right into our collections tab, and then from there we can pick our Mario and our Kirby game, and the OS will just kind of be out of the way, and if you want to see systems, you could just hit the left and right button. And you just have a really clean front end if you do this, and then you could just go ahead and pick the IP that you want to play, and it will take you to all of the games for that IP. And that's it. That's our build, but I do want to showcase some gameplay here just to show you the custom bezels that RetroOZ puts in, and it really sets up all of the video settings for you, so you really don't need to do anything as far as tweaking the videos for gameplay. It's already done and ready to go. But since my audio didn't record properly, enjoy some music by Nile the Nightmare instead. Now, a couple of last-minute tweaks that I want to make is to set up some of these Super Game Boy Enhanced games to play in color. So we're going to start with Kirby's Dream Land 2. We're going to edit the metadata, and we're going to change the emulator to RetroArch and the core to MGBA. And then we're going to make sure that we save. And in changing the emulator, we now have the option to have Super Game Boy borders and Super Game Boy Enhanced colorization. However, I like to turn the borders off. So we're going to go into the quick menu in RetroArch, and we're going to go into options and video, and we're going to shut the Super Game Boy borders off. And you don't need to save to the configuration file or anything like that. It just automatically saves. And the next time you boot up Kirby's Dream Land 2, you'll still have the Game Boy bezels, but you'll have the colorized version of it, and it looks really good. And while we're at it, we're going to go in and do the exact same thing for Pokemon Red and Pokemon Blue, because I know the person I'm giving this to will be able to appreciate playing those two games in full color with the Super Game Boy enhancements. And so now you could see here with Pokemon Red, we're using the MGBA emulator, and we have those Super Game Boy enhanced colors. And that's our Nintendo Essentials Collection build for the Powkiddy RGB10 Max, running the RetroOZ custom firmware, and that will wrap this up for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think of this build in the comments below, and please feel free to continue the conversation in the Budget Aquaman Discord. Link will be in the video description. Let me know, is this a helpful build for your own device, or was this helpful in setting this up to give your Powkiddy RGB10 Max to another member of your family? Either way, thank you so much for watching, and if this video was helpful to you in any way, please be sure to like and subscribe. Until next time, bye for now, and don't stop believing.